Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have a hot topic for our webinar on 5 hacks to boost email open rates presented by Bridgeline Digital. First off, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Alex Combos, SVP of Marketing and Growth here at Bridgeline, and I'll be your host alongside with Amanda Nader, our VP of Client Success.
Thanks, Alex. I'm excited to have the opportunity to discuss this very hot topic. I'd like to remind everyone that if you have questions throughout the presentation, please enter them into the question box and we'll address them at the very end. With that being said, Alex, why don't you just take it away?
So here's a look at the topics we'll be covering today. We'll dive into the 5 hacks one by one and give specific examples of how companies have been successful in increasing their open rates. Most of these methodologies apply to both B2C and B2B. Lastly, we'll leave you with some key takeaways before we finish up with Q&A. So the question is, why focus on open rate optimization? If no one opens your emails, all other email metrics will suffer. So you have to say goodbye to high open rates, high click-to-open rates, and high click-to click-through rates. And in today's email-heavy world, your subscribers are inundated with messages every day. In fact, people see up to 2,900 marketing messages a day. So how are you going to stand out in the inbox and increase your open rates? So let's get into the first hack.
Perfect. So the first hack is all about managing bounced emails. So I know what you're thinking. This presentation is about open rates, right? So why are we talking about opt-in processes? Well, in a few moments, I'm going to show you some very interesting data that shows why bounce management campaigns can increase your open rates and improve email marketing ROI. But first, let's review the 2 opt-in processes, the single opt-in and the double opt-in. So a single opt-in is when a new name fills out a web form and is automatically added to your subscription list. A double opt-in is when a new name fills out a web form and then a confirmation email is triggered with a link to confirm the email address. In this head-to-head matchup, we'll look at the pros and cons of each method. So for the single opt-in method, the pros are a bigger list, which looks better to senior management. You're capturing more names without having new subscribers jump through hoops. And lastly, you can instantly gratify a new subscriber with new content. For the single opt-in cons, you might get fake emails or emails with syntax errors, which result in higher soft and hard bounce rates, a lower sender reputation, less email engagement, and ultimately less qualified names. It's honestly not quite as dramatic as I'm making it sound, but regardless, those are still the issues. So for double opt-ins, the pros are a healthier email list, lower bounce rates, better sender reputation, and it gives you the chance to start with a warm, fuzzy message to build your brand, possibly through a welcome email, increase email engagement, and overall get more qualified names. So the cons with the double opt-in are that you'll have a somewhat smaller list, which might look worse to your senior management depending on the situation. Users may not complete the subscription process by never clicking the confirmation email link. And since you've added an extra step in the process, you'll have less signups and potentially you might end up with less customers. Here at Bridgeline, we actually use the single opt-in process, which based on the length of cons may seem shocking, but we use smart campaigns within Bridgeline to help us manage soft bounces, hard bounces, and undelivered emails for maximum deliverability and sender reputation. Alex, why don't you actually walk everyone through that process?
Sure. So within our database, we had emails that would repeatedly soft bounce. We needed better bounce management to help manage business risk of these soft bounces before they become something worse, like a hard bounce or a spam trap, which at the time would also help with our open rates. A soft bounce means that the email address was valid and that the email message reached the recipient's mail server. However, it bounced back because either the mailbox was full or the server was down. Now, a hard bounce occurs when the message has been permanently rejected, probably because the email is invalid or just doesn't exist or has been deleted. So going back into our topic, we created 2 campaigns, a batch cleanup for any email that has soft bounced a minimum number of 10 times in the past 90 days, we marked it as invalid. And we did a triggered cleanup, and that is for any email that soft bounces a minimum number of 6 times in the past 30 days, we also mark it as invalid. Thanks to this trigger campaign, the more we email, the cleaner our database becomes. That means that we are emailing addresses that we know are more likely to receive and open our emails. Then we took it one step further and looked into the types of hard and soft bounces we were seeing in our system. If we could determine which types of bounces we see the most by bounce code, we could run additional cleanup campaigns to touch the ones that aren't most harmful to our sender reputation. So what we found was that there was a set of bounce codes that could be categorized into 3 different categories within Bridgeline. We built campaigns to clean up those specific soft bounce categories that could be detrimental to our sender reputation. And if we continued to email them, it would become worse and worse. So with that in mind, we created 2 campaigns. A batch cleanup campaign to scrub all existing emails that have poor soft bounce categories and then marked it as invalid. And then trigger cleanup campaign to catch them as we go. We saw really great success with these campaigns. It gave us a way to ensure our deliverability will remain high, but most importantly, our open rates would climb.
So another important factor to consider is sender reputation. The reputation you have as a sender is the #1 reason why you should implement bounce management campaigns. Due to many recent filtering tactics of ISPs, one thing is really clear. Consistently sending emails to a dirty subscriber list with questionable email addresses will have adverse effects on both inbox placement and your sender reputation. There are a lot of factors that actually affect your sender reputation, but the most common ones are subscriber engagement like opens and clicks, positive and negative engagement signals like whitelisting an email address or marking an email as spam, hard bounces, if you're on a blacklist, and so on and so forth. So being able to manage all of those and keep them to a minimum will help keep your reputation high. If you have a cleaner list and lower bounce rates, you'll have a much higher ratio of positive engagements to negative engagements. This will help your sender reputation, which means better email deliverability, inboxing rates, and of course, bum-ba-da-bum, open rates.
Okay, so moving on to the second hack, which is segmentation and reactivation. Let's start with a simple statistic. According to a study conducted, over 25% of email addresses in company databases were classified as inactive. And how do they classify them as inactive? Well, they're referring to email accounts that haven't shown any activity in 30 to 60 days or more. These people have raised their hand in the past, showing interest, they purchased a product or other ways engaged with your brand, but have since gone dark.
So that's actually a really important distinction to make. These people have expressed interest in the past, but for whatever reason, it's dwindled over time. Understanding the why is really the beginning of solving for this problem.
That's right. And regardless of your subscriber list size, one thing is for certain. A population of your list that has not engaged in a very, very long time, and you know you've spent time and money getting people to subscribe. Not only that these sleepy, unengaged subscribers are bringing down your open rates, click-to-open rates, and email deliverability and sender reputation, but it's harmful overall for your sender reputation. So why exactly do these unengaged subscribers bring down these metrics? And why might you see lower inboxing rates? Well, that's because getting an ISP to love you is not an easy task. The #1 thing ISPs love to see is high levels of engagement. That means lots of people opening, clicking, reading, scrolling, and engaging with your emails on a regular basis. When you have high engagement, ISPs will let the majority of your emails hit the primary inbox. That's because your email recipients want them and the demand is really high. So sending to both highly engaged subscribers and highly unengaged subscribers at the same time can actually hurt you and your open rates as well. So if you can start to segment out campaigns based on engagement, your campaigns to engage subscribers and campaigns to unengaged subscribers, they will perform much, much better. So let's see how we can do that.
So the best way to awaken your sleepy subscribers is to run reactivation campaigns or an email campaign or multiple campaigns that are specifically targeted towards sleeping subscribers to get them to re-engage with your brand. These campaigns can take many forms from direct requests to deals and offers. The most common reactivation method occurs via email, but with the rise of smartphones, tablets, and smartwatches, marketers need to strongly consider re-engaging subscribers over mobile and social media as well. So by performing campaigns like these, you can determine who wants to hear from you, who doesn't, and most importantly, have a clean list to target. Let's face it, some email addresses are harder and more expensive to acquire than others. If you're a B2B marketer targeting, say, those in an executive level type of a role, you probably never want to retire such valuable contacts. So we suggest creating a new group to add these subscribers to and just sending emails to them at a lower cadence, maybe something like 1 email a quarter, depending on your business type. The bottom line here is if the cost of acquiring a customer is greater than keeping an existing one, you should do anything you can to re-engage those inactive members of your list.
Well, that's usually the case, Amanda, across many industries. The acquisition cost of new customers is always greater than the existing ones. So now let's talk about some of the benefits of reactivation campaigns. These campaigns offer a multitude of benefits to marketers. They help improve your overall revenue, your email metrics, and your deliverability. First off, you can maximize ROI by helping you identify your most active, the most valuable email recipients. As mentioned, reactivating inactive recipients is much less expensive than acquiring new names. You've already acquired the name, it's paid for and done. Now you just need to trigger them and get them engaged to purchase, inquire, or whatever.
So I actually love this because a lot of companies struggle with high customer acquisition costs, so it's a great way to maximize what you already have and help keep those acquisition costs down. So this actually makes perfect and logical sense.
Another benefit is to increase email engagement. The bottom line here is that the everyday campaigns you run might not engage all of your subscribers. Perhaps the language or the offers are not enticing or relevant enough to keep them engaged. And if it's been a long time since their last engagement, they might just get tired of hearing from you and mark your emails as spam. So rather than letting that happen, you can use reactivation campaigns to proactively ask them if they still want to receive emails from you. By determining which subscribers don't want to hear from you, you ensure the dead weight in your database doesn't bring down your overall email engagement metrics.
You know, that is so true. In this day and age, people are wising up to cheesy marketing tactics, and we're finding that the majority of people respond a lot more to blunt, direct, and to the point, yes-no types of questions.
And lastly, the third benefit is improving your email deliverability and IP reputation. On average, in both the personal and business world, 30% of email addresses turn over each year from subscribers changing or creating a new email address. From a B2B perspective, this means that there's no one on the receiving end of nearly a third of your emails. On the consumer side, the same is true, but in this case, the ISPs can capture inactive email addresses and turn them into spam traps, something that you don't want to happen. So here are some examples of reactivation emails from Paul Mitchell and a fashion retailer using the phrase, we hate goodbyes. This headline, we hate goodbyes, feels very approachable and friendly and makes the user wonder if they really want to do this. You could say it feels like an old friend reaching out to catch up rather than a business trying to sell something. Yet they still are selling. They're offering a 20% discount to verify the subscription, which is actually a terrific way to awake these unengaged subscribers and get them back on the fast track to a purchase or some kind of engagement.
So here's a really good example of a relationship reminder from Starbucks. As you send out reactivation emails, be sure to reference prior engagements, purchases, and other data so subscribers recall their relationship with your company and see that you actually care about them. In other words, don't just say, we miss you, and nothing else. Add some context to your message with phrases like, it's been a while since we've heard from you. How have you been?
That's right, Amanda. So let's go into the third hack, which is about the subject line. This is very interesting. People want to know why your email is more important than thousands of other emails in their inbox. So put all the important actionable words in the front of your subject line to entice opens. In other words, get to the point. In my experience, changing the structure of the sentence line to front load the important keywords has increased open rates by up to 20%. Address your subscribers by their name or insert pronouns like you or your to give your subject lines a personalized touch. According to Experian, emails with personalized subject lines are 26% more likely to be opened, yet 70% of brands are not personalizing emails sent to their subscribers. And that's a huge opportunity for your brand to stand out. Petflow recently sent this email about a free trial, and just by adding a name to the subject line, it made people feel like they seem as a person versus a potential conversation or a number, and that they're truly interested in helping achieve their best experience. And they really converted with that. Now, this might seem a little bit weird, but I've always seen subject lines that use rhymes, alliteration, or puns that do really well. If you can write a subject line that rolls off your tongue, you will get a higher open rate. It's like music to the ears. It's not easy to come up with these, but when you do, they will perform exceedingly well. I've seen extraordinary subject lines perform up to 30 or 40% better.
So the fourth hack is about language and potential pitfalls. This is a great list of email power words and language pitfalls that's definitely worth sharing. So let's go through this a little bit. So typos and misspellings due to poor editing. With spell check, there's really no excuse. Avoid this at all costs. Subject lines in all caps. Writing in all capital letters online is the equivalent of shouting. You would never scream at your customers or prospects in person, so don't do it in an email either. Use of punctuation marks and numbers within the subject line. If it's absolutely necessary, use only functional punctuation such as a hyphen or colon. Do not put phone numbers in your subject line, ever. Excessive or unnecessary repetition. Copy written in passive rather than active voice. Remember, you need to get to the point quickly in email. So front load sentences and paragraphs with action verbs and eye-catching benefits. False or inflated senses of urgency. The very nature of email implies expediency and immediacy. Pushing recipients to respond by intentionally creating an environment of panic or scarcity usually doesn't provide an incremental lift in response. In fact, it can actually be a real turnoff. Vague calls to action like click here, visit our website. Those are way too general and they don't reinforce the subject of your message or offer, nor do they instill confidence in where a responder is going to land. Also, exaggerated modifiers like amazing and revolutionary and great or all new, even special and important, are especially poor when used in the subject line and can land in your email junk folder. Hype is a hallmark of spam, and it's unnecessary when your messages are targeted and relevant. Assuming that they are targeted and relevant, they will always be perceived as important, special, or great, so why restate the obvious? And the number one pitfall, including the word spam in your message, such as this is not spam, the very existence of written justification that your email is ethical calls its legitimacy into question. I can't think of a more self-defeating proposition than stating your message is not what you fear that it's going to be.
That's true, Amanda. And although it sounds silly, I've seen this in so many emails in the last year. So now for the top 10 power words. And we'll start from the top. New, which really appeals to our basic human curiosity to seek novelty. Save, we all love a bargain. Safety, connotates reliability, appeals to the basic human needs. Proven, really justifies your claims and removes fear of the unknown. Love, this is an all-time favorite, maybe not so much in business, but overall for email marketing. Guarantee, if you have one, just make sure you state it. It ironclads your offer. Immediate or replaced with now or instant. That instant gratification is the expectation online. And if it can be found, completed, or received almost immediately, your offer is in the wrong channel. Results, it provides rationalization for instant conversation. Then we have you. Your audience wants to hear about what's in it for them, not you. So articulate your benefits in personal conversational terms. And the number one power word is free. You're probably not surprised. This is the time-honored, most potent motivator in the direct response. So strive to optimize placement and test it if necessary. So the fifth and final hack is around timing. There are different schools of thought here. In my experience, each industry has its own best day and time. While there is not a single best time to send emails for all industries, you can track patterns in customer behavior to identify the optimal times to communicate with your customers for your own industry. So for example, there are studies that indicate that email open rates tend to drop off on the weekends. And their emails that are sent Tuesday through Thursday have the best open rates. They also compete with the highest volume, though, of emails sent. So that's to prove that every industry has its own best times and dates. So let's talk about a couple of examples that can illustrate this a little bit better. Online retailer eBags managed to increase email click-through rates by 20% and conversions by 65% after running tests to find the best time of day to send out its marketing messages. Choosing the best time to send out email is a key issue for email marketers, but the optimal time of the week is usually selected on a general one-size-fits-all basis. However, eBags carried out research based on the hypothesis that if users were available to sign up to an email list at a certain time, then they would be far more receptive to receiving an email at the same time as when they signed up. So the company individually calculated the best time to send the email by looking at the behavior of each user within that email list, recording the exact time when they signed up to that list. And the results were pretty phenomenal. Their click-through rates increased by 20%, their conversion rates increased by another 65%, their average value per order increased by another 45%, and their overall average revenue per recipient increased by 187%. But while the email campaign was incredibly effective, eBags did not employ this technique in all of its campaigns because sending out individually timed emails is both very, very time-consuming as well as technically difficult. Another example is British Airways. They developed a highly targeted mobile app campaign to promote its Executive Club mobile app. And customers received tailored emails optimized specifically for the type of handheld device they were using. The process of optimizing began with analysis of BA's customer email database to assess which customers were desktop and which were mobile phone users. And then they were able to determine the type of devices that customers would be using to access the application. So they produced 3 different email creatives to support iPhone, Android, and desktop users. The results of the campaign showed that the targeting and optimization techniques employed were very, very effective. Open rates for mobile exceeded those for desktop users, more than 50% for iPhone versus Android devices. No, 50% for iPhone and Android. The click-through rate was 25% for users who accessed email on their iPhone, more than 30% for Android users. And the campaign generated over 250,000 downloads, more than double the targeted number, and more than 70,000 clicks to BA's landing page about the app. Approximately 200,000 downloads came from the Apple Store and about 50,000 from Android. So iPhone was a clear winner when comparing them to Android and desktop. Now for this next segment, we wanted to explain what we have found to be important marketing tech. And there are 3 key things.
So the first thing is completeness. Marketers have fallen into the trap of patching together multiple technologies to address weak points in the customer journey. The result is stitching different technologies together that manifest as a bug in the customer experience. This can do more to encourage than to prevent abandonment. This is actually called SaaS sprawl and is famously a nightmare to manage with all the multiple logins, APIs, licenses, etc. Another huge challenge facing marketers is having the ability to capture behavioral data across multiple devices. By having your automation technologies integrated with customer intelligence, this can be made possible. The most efficient way to do this is to have everything in one platform.
And finally, the most common reasons visitors don't stick around fall in two categories, which is pricing and timing. The trick is to reach them before that engagement tails off. If your technology is limited to, say, one API call every 24 hours, you will miss that boat, and timing is half the challenge. You need the ability to be able to reach customers in real time. And there are many platforms out there that can do this. At Bridgeline, we believe a smart channel coverage means having real-time, intelligence-driven marketing automation integrated into your CMS or your commerce platform. And this is how our customers have been successful at leveraging our tools, by attracting users with robust campaign generation and SEO, then engaging visitors with personalized content for both anonymous and known users, nurturing these users with marketing automation, driving user conversions through relevant offers and messaging, and then it's really important to keep looking at the data and learn what's working and what's not. All this really translates into a single unified system to build fully personalized experiences. So we're really close to the end of our webinar for today, and I wanted to summarize the 5 hacks. Number 1 is really manage your bounced emails, both hard and soft. Segment and reactivate your database. Look at the subject line copy and make sure you pick something that converts better. Be aware of the language pitfalls and power words, and be aware of timing.
So this is actually going to conclude the presentation. We've slotted some time to go through Q&A, and we actually have a lot of questions in the chat, so we're just going to pull a few and make sure to respond to the rest with either a call or an email. So let me sift through, and we'll pick a couple, and we'll make sure that everyone gets a response within the next couple of days here. All right, so first one here. Can open rates increase by using workflows? I can take this one, Alex. So workflows, for those who are not familiar, are features in a marketing automation tool, kind of like what we offer via our product Unbound, that allows you to trigger reactions based on certain actions being fulfilled by your end users. So an example would be a lead visiting a specific web page or initiating a free trial. The short answer to this question is yes, you can increase open rates by using workflows. So let's use the example of a contact starting your company's free trial. This action would trigger a workflow which sends out an email every 3 days showcasing different features of your trial. The workflow ends with a final email timed to send on the day the trial finishes. Essentially, you're outsourcing your lead nurturing process. And although we definitely recommend additional outreach, this process still allows you to continuously sell your product over time. So by the time your final email is sent, your prospect is already halfway sold. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll pick another one. Alex, why don't you pick the next one?
Sure, I just found one that I think is very interesting. So the email says, the question says, our company is debating using advanced personalization tactics such as changing product images based on our subscribers' information. Does this help with open rates? If so, what's the easiest way to get started? That's really a great question and very relevant. So to get the most out of advanced personalization, you're going to need as much data about your leads as possible. So I would start with integrating your marketing automation and CRM. But furthermore, you could add custom tracking links and events across your website to see the visitor activity in more detail. That will give you a better picture of your prospects. You can begin to highly personalize your emails. For example, you could create workflows just like Amanda talked about for the previous question, and create if statements within a workflow to send out case studies based on an industry type, or automatically send out free trial emails when a prospect hits your pricing page. Another way is to trigger a cart abandonment email to send when a prospect abandons a purchase halfway through. And you could probably also insert a discount coupon code and see the reaction. Personally, I email relevant case studies using the prospect's name and industry type in the subject and copy, and this has more than doubled our open rates in the past. Amanda, do we have time for another one, or are we up? What do you think?
No, I think we're actually pretty much out of time for the day. Again, as we mentioned, we will make sure that we reach out to everyone to address all of the questions in the chat, either via an email or via phone. And we really appreciate the time that everyone spent with us today. So if you have any additional questions or want a copy of this presentation, you can feel free to email us at marketing@bridgeline.com, or you can contact Alex or myself directly. Our information is listed on this slide here. And again, we'll be sending out emails with this content. So thank you all again, and everyone have a wonderful day.